research to back up this idea about a sort of biological link between a person's politics and something natural, whether it's genetics or what have you. In Predisposed, John Hibbing talked about that the differences between liberals and conservatives go far beyond where they live or how they think about the world to things as basic as what they eat. And brain scan studies have shown things like conservatives respond more to threat than liberals. So there is a scientific basis for the idea of a biological difference between liberals and conservatives. So we decided to take that a step further and see if there's something facial about it.
So what we did is, as most of you know, we had to fill out a survey, and with this survey answered a few political questions, and you got a score back. And within that score, it plots you on a graph just determining your political stance.
And with that, I answered that too.
Yeah, so with that, so we got back the score. Now with that, we used a service called Google Vision API. This API, as you can tell by this image, it retrieves facial landmarks. These facial landmarks are key points on a person's face, such like the left eye, the right eye, nose tip, and marks on a person's mouth. Now, so basically, our technology that we use is we have our server. Our server speaks to this Google Vision API. From this Vision API, which we fed an image to, we get a position back. This position is the position of the certain landmark. So if you say the right eye, its position is at X, Y, Z. So it also calculates depth. With that position, we ran it through this code, as you can tell. It's very clever code. That is our algorithm. We fed in the position, we calculated, we did our algorithm on it. With that algorithm, we got a point on the graph, determining, our algorithm guesses how of the person's political stance and plots them on the graph. Along with just the web app, we also have the Android app. The Android app is available on the App Store. You can download it now. It's called Politipic. And if you want to use Android app, the Android speaks to our server, which speaks to the server speaks to the Vision API, so forth, and does that process. A few of the technologies that we used in this project are Python libraries such as NumPy, which helped us calculate distances. We calculate distances because that's what our algorithm does. We take 2 points on a person's face and calculate the distance. We used also a library called Pandas, as you can tell, that is a panda. What Panda does is sorts our data. What we got back was a lot of data, and we wanted ways to sort that data, and Pandas came very handy in sorting the data. We also used it for data analysis and finding correlation. So Pandas is a huge factor in our project. These are some of the libraries that we incorporated in our project.
Demo time. So, like we said, we made a web app, and I'm going to show it to you real quick. So this is the server that we keep talking about. We have a website up. Looks pretty cool. Click here, find your score, and we voted for the guy on the right, if you remember at the beginning of the presentation. So let's find out who we actually voted for. So we pick his photo, we submit it, and in a couple seconds, we get back his political score, just like that. And it looks to be a centrist, little left of center. So there you go. So what happened throughout this process is, as you saw, we took the photo, we sent it in, and what happened to that photo is, first it hit some of our code where it was disassembled into base64 encoding and then sent in a package to the Google Vision API, which took a look at the photo and used Google Magic to identify different parts of the face. Then they sent us back those numbers, and we unpacked that JSON file. We picked out the landmarks that we found were the most statistically relevant, and based on those, numbers, we graph them on our graph. There you go. Now, it's a pretty cool idea, but the reason we did this in the first place, as most of you who know me know, before I was here, I spent a lot of time working in Democratic Party politics. For a couple of years, I went around knocking on doors, talking to people, asking them how they're planning on voting, trying to convince them to vote for my candidate, things like that. And over that time, I felt like I developed this sort of sense that just by looking at somebody, I could tell how the conversation was going to go, and what their opinions were, how they saw the world, things like that. And from the very start, this is sort of what we were curious about. Does this thing actually exist? We can just look at somebody and know. And the reason that this is important is not just because it's kind of a cool idea, but it actually has the potential to completely change how electoral politics work. The current way campaigns reach out to voters is through a model like this. They take various demographics like age, sex, race, religion, where they live. They also take into account how often they vote, and they graph them on a chart they graph voters on a chart like this. In the top left corner, you have those who are most likely to vote in any given election and most likely to support your candidate. Those are the ones who campaigners will reach out to try to get them to volunteer. And then the purple ones are the people who need convincing to go out and vote, to support the candidate, and so on. And this works pretty well. It's a well-developed system, but it does have its flaws. For example, my mother, for most of her life, was a registered Republican. But despite that fact, she has never voted for a Republican for president, ever. And even recently, she started volunteering for Democratic candidates. But based on the system, she would never be contacted by a Democratic campaign to come volunteer. And that's a volunteer that they're missing out on. And we only know how many out there like my mom there might be. So, we hope to shake this up by adding in algorithmically factored political scores. And what this would do is it would change the entire dynamic of voter outreach. It would change even the conversation you have with a voter in itself. You would no longer talk about party and how great yours is and how terrible the other is. And you wouldn't talk about personality. What you talk about is the issues. You could look at a chart and say, this person has this score, so they care about this issue. And I'm going to go talk to them about that issue because our candidate is better on that issue than our opponent. We will be able to look at what an individual cares about and engage them on a personal level. And using our framework, we hope to ultimately make America great again. Thank you.
The questions.
Did you drive Trump's face on the app?
Yeah.
And we got a result too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Question. Was there any, even if there wasn't like a statistical analysis, like a good predictor, was there any kind of correlation that you guys got?
We did find correlation. The issue, as most of you already know, is that we surveyed 39 people out of a population from anywhere between 300 million and 7 billion, depending on how relevant this information is. Most of our survey respondents are in this room right now.
And especially in New York, which doesn't really help our case.
Yeah, so our data is very skewed, and because of that, as it's currently built, we cannot get, we can't get an accurate reading. This should be viewed not as a final product, but as a framework through which a final product like that with a more sensitive survey could be constructed.
Which parts of the Google API did you use in your algorithm? Which facial features were you looking for? And then, what specifically did you use to test?
Well, at first, what we wanted to do is find some correlation, and we didn't know what points to use. So what we did is we used all the points against each other. So we tried to find
strongest correlations. And that's how we chose the points.
If you had the chance to go back in time and redo this month all over again, what changes would you make to your process? Not about the actual coding, but like about about your workflow and your timetable.
I would say that there were definitely parts of the project that took a lot longer than we expected. It didn't take us as much time as we expected to figure out the Google API, but we spent at least a week analyzing data. Various functions that we built. 39 doesn't sound like a big number, and 34 facial features isn't that many, but when you're comparing every single one against each other, you get exponential growth, and our programs ended up taking at least a half hour to run. We didn't plan for that, so that would definitely be something where we would approach that in a more time-efficient manner.
Just to add on to that, yes, what Eric said is definitely correct, but if you've seen us working back there, there was a point where we were in text files that were over gigabytes in size. And we're doing all these crazy sort of data analysis, and Jeff comes up to us, our instructor, he comes up to us like, wait, aren't you only have 39 points and doing this? And me and Eric just look at each other like, yeah, why don't we?
Yeah,
So like,
yeah.
we were really lost in the data and trying to find some sort of correlations and sorting these sort of data out. So the text files, that process took us away from coding itself. But I don't know. I think it worked out pretty well.
We learned that you can't open a text file that is almost a gig big. Can't do it. And it should not be done. Tom told...
Shouldn't have been written.
Shouldn't have been written.
Yeah, I was just gonna
It's
say.
terrible. Don't do it.
So what format did you use for the file?
Text format. And generally, we try to avoid opening them as much as possible, and as quickly as possible. When we started out with analyzing the data, we were building 3 different text files at once, and we cut that out and got it down to 1 text file, and then from there we made a CSV, an Excel spreadsheet, which was much easier to manage.
And then we could learn faster than text files.
Yeah.
I think it's a really impressive project. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Richard.
No, so I have 2 questions. One is, so do you have the process automated now so that for all if you were to add an additional face or 2, like, do you still need to manually do this analysis, or you can just upload a face, put in the designation, and it'll just continuously refine your correlation?
As far as expanding the database, it is mostly automated at this point. There's one small part of the code that I can actually pull up right now. I can show you real quick exactly where it is that would need to be changed, depending on whether or not you found a correlation that disagreed with what you already have. That's right here, where right here, where you would need to change the numbers of the facial landmarks.
Yeah, it's because my second question would be that, because you can technically, I guess, look up the pictures of all the current, like, congressmen, and at least, and then do a scan on their faces.
That was using current politicians is something that came up in conversation. As somebody with a political background, my big hesitation with that is that, as most of us know, politicians lie. And for example, if you took Hillary Clinton's views from 20 years ago versus today, you would find her on different parts of the graph.
Actually, with so many politicians.
That's true. So it's available for further study. But if we were to expand on this, we would want to keep to the survey picture model.
Or instead of using that 4-way axis, you could do a version in which you just try to determine at base level if anyone is liberal or conservative or democratic or republican, and try to run it as like a binary, either this or that.
Well, we like the
then you could have reliable data because people don't switch party affiliation.
well, that's where it gets into the nitty-gritty of the idea of our project, which is we are looking to separate social structures from the individual. Like I mentioned during the presentation, my mother was Republican for most of her life, but she was not, in terms of ideology, ever a Republican. And what this aims to do is look at the person and what they believe, if that's possible, rather than at their party. Yeah.
Did you guys include like gender differences? For example, like male and female, or just everybody gets the same picture
no.
and the same points?
Yeah, no, we don't include gender differences. What the Google Vision 8 kind of returns is facial line marks. So like every eyebrows, nose, mouth, tips, like it doesn't include like anything with the gender. So it focuses on a person's face.
Although with a bigger sample size, that would certainly be something to look at.
Okay, but then I wouldn't understand the difference.
Yeah, definitely.
So do you plan to keep having people do surveys for these topic here? And if so, do you plan to have a different survey which is more simple and quicker?
Pages?
I mean, if we're talking about ideal situations, you know, neither of us really know what's happening after graduation for either of us.
Yeah.
I'm personally hoping to end up working for the company that actually does the voter outreach data analysis that I talked about in this project, and maybe even like give them this project and have them build it, because this is, like I said, a framework, not a finished product, and they would certainly have the resources to give this project the attention it deserves.
Yeah, and also to add on to that, one of our luxury goals as we were trying to form a deadline for this project was to have some sort of form actually on the webpage where they can fill out something and also submit an image. That way it can build onto our database. That was one of the luxury goals. We just never really accomplished that. But if we were to continue working on this, that would be probably one of the next steps.
Shimei, did you have a question?
Oh, I was saying that for those of us who have taken the survey, we know what the map looks like, but during your presentation, I think it would be helpful if you showed some of the points. This is who this is where Gandhi stands, this is where Hitler stands, so that other people can have.
I guess we can.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Statist.
Yeah, no, we'll make it more. Yeah, oh, that's a good idea.
Map the
Thank you.
builder.
So also you guys can go onto the website and check it out yourselves. It's actually really well designed. This is one of the charts we're talking about. We also have some sort of what our demonstration spoke about. He pointed out inside this website.
Yeah, so feel free to check out the website or download the Android app, PolitiPay.